Welcome to day 8 of our Roxy's Christmas stitchery. So I have made one of these dolls. I've linked the tutorial to the doll down the bottom using beads, and I used pipe cleaners, which I've just shown you. I'm not going to show you how I made the doll because I used someone else's tutorial. The bead that I used is about 3 inches or 1 1/4 inch in size. And basically I have wrapped the pipe cleaners with this old perle cotton, which Rachel gave me. I think it's like an old one. The reason I did that is I felt like the colour matched the colour of the bead quite well. So I'm going to use some of these bits and pieces that I'm showing you, so some old fabric and laces and things like that. And my prompt, because I don't think I've told you that yet, is I'm making an angel. So this is going to be a Christmas angel, not Christmas colours. I'm showing you some different things that I'm thinking about using. So a Christmas angel that is going to go on the top of my Christmas tree. So you don't have to make an angel or fairy, Christmas fairy. It could be a fairy actually. This is not an angel. I think I'm doing a fairy. You don't have to make one that's structured like this. You could make one out of a wooden clothespin, or you could make one just solely out of fabric. It's up to you. But I'm making the one that uses the bead and the wire. So I'm just playing around with some ideas, thinking if I'll use some lace to make a crown, or whether I'm going to put a flower in her hair. But you'll see what I get to shortly. Alright, so the first thing that I'm doing is I get myself a strip of fabric, which I'm going to just wrap around the body just to pat it out a bit to make it just a little bit wider, because she's very, 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 very tiny and she needs to be a little bit bigger. So that's the first thing that I do. I wrap it around and then I'm going to stitch it in place. Then what I do is I cut a larger piece. I try to get the nice flower, which is going to be like the body of her dress. So you'll see what I do with that. I like the flower bit. So I'm going to trim this down. It's just rough cut. Doesn't need to be too neat, because all I'm going to do is fold over the top and wrap it around so it's neater. And then I will end up stitching that at the back. I'll stitch down the seam. Okay, her body piece is all stitched up, and now it's time to make her some sleeves. So I found a little trim, which I think is quite cute. This little white one with scalloped edges, and I'm going to make her little sleeves that go around on both sides. So her sleeves are done, and now I'm going to add a little tiny flower to the center of her dress, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I've just trimmed off this little flower from that piece of lace, and I'm going to stitch it in the middle there. So now it's time to make the rest of her dress. So I get that same piece of fabric that I used before for the body of her dress, and I cut myself a circle. So my first cut is not very round, it's a little bit oval. You'll see in a minute. So I do turn off the camera and make it a bit more round. So I'm back with a better shape. That's much better. Now I decide to add a trim to the bottom, this vintage piece of lace, which is very pretty. So I stitch it the whole way around the circle of fabric. You'll see more of the skirt as I progress. So I've got some fake flowers which I've taken the stem out of, and I decide to thread them up her body to see what they look like, because I want to have lots of layers of her skirt to make it interesting. Now what I do is I'm stitching the circular piece of fabric with the lace trim onto the body part, and I've just slid the flowers up. They fit quite snugly, so I don't need to stitch them down. Now skirt all stitched in place, and this time I'm adding in the layers of tulle. It's a soft tulle, not a rough one. Some of the tulles you get are quite stiff, and I've cut very rough circles and a little hole in the middle, and I layer them over the top of each other. So I think I cut 7 circles in total, different sizes, rough cut. Nothing too careful about this. Tulle's actually quite hard to cut neatly. But yep, I layer them under, and then I'm going to just roughly stitch them in place to hold them securely so that they don't fall down. Now that all the layers of her skirt are in place, I decide to do a little bit of beading. So I've got these old gold beads, and I will be beading so that there are little loops. So I think I start off putting 5, but the loops aren't big enough, so I end up putting 8 in total, using a beading needle and a thin piece of silk, which is good for beading, and they sit quite nicely when I'm done. Alright, so my beading's done. You can see there's little loops. I used 8 beads in the end. And I've pulled over some cardboard and got the hot glue gun out because I'm going to wrap her feet with some pink 6-stranded cotton to give her some little shoes. And I'll add the bows on just like in the other video as well. Now it's time to add the flower to her hair. Again, I use the hot glue gun, add a bit of the hot glue on the back and pop it onto the top of her head. Sorry, I'm just a little bit off screen there. I'm literally just pressing it down into her hair. And now I'm going to make a little bouquet of flowers. So I've got these little pastel peach coloured flowers. And I'm going to get a green variegated perlé cotton to wrap the stems. And then I will glue them into her hands. Now it's time to paint her face, and I've got a pinky red for the mouth. I'm going to paint a little tiny heart, which will be her mouth, then pink cheeks and little blue eyes. So my Christmas fairy is, or angel, whatever you want to do, is done and ready to go on top of the tree. Actually, the one thing I'm going to add is I am going to add some fairy wings. I'm going to get some of those butterflies where they make them with feathers. And I'm going to use the feathers or the wings to make her wings. But I haven't got any, so I'm going to have to go to the shops and find some. Yeah, so she's going to be a fairy. So you could do a fairy or an angel, whatever you like. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me make my little lady that's going to go on top of my tree. And I will see you for my last version of Roxy's Christmas stitchery in 2 days' time. Thanks for watching. Bye.